Ooh, well, just coming off of, well, what was ultimately, I think, a sad episode on the recent death of Ozzy Osbourne. I cannot tell you how honored I am at how many people, just, bother to email me or message me, letting me know and, and checking in on me, because obviously I've had some very impassioned reactions on my show to the death of some of some of these artists, like Prince, of course, my friend Harlan Ellison, even Lemmy, and Adam West, many over the years. And in fact, there were a few years there where, boy, it seemed like every fucking week there was, another, major celebrity death. That seemed to taper off a little bit, at least with the ones that were like a big deal to me, say growing up or even now in my life. Which again, I still listen to Ozzy every day. In fact, some people are asking me, I got a lot of questions about that. We'll get into some of it. But I had people saying, I was the first person they thought of, to reach out to about Ozzy, or I was the second person that they thought of. Just such beautiful people out there. And also so many people grateful that I did an episode around Ozzy, and hey, like, I wish it was an episode we didn't have to do, but I'm honored that it helped anyone, or any of my work, that any of my work ever helps anybody. Really, I'm so honored by that. A couple things we're going to get into. There's some tech stuff to get in. I'm going to try and make this a very rounded thing. We're going to talk a little music, talk a little tech. We'll get into a little mysticism for sure. Before I do that, I have a question for you. Okay. And you feel free how you want to get, your response to me. Of course, you can email me, fu@xxtech.net, or whatever email address you like to use for me. You can do Spotify comments. You can do YouTube comments. Like Signal, you can reach out to me on that. I gave out my Signal handle recently. There's just plenty of ways. Okay. And I would really want your help with this. Okay. Because what we have here, okay, is not a failure to communicate. What we have here is like, what I want to know is what type of, look, I can do so many different types of shows, right? If I wanted to, and I even toyed with it for a little while, I could do a show that's entirely about music, about metal. I can do, a tech show like SOVRYN Tech. Of course, SOVRYN Tech was way more than just a tech show, right? Like most people tell me, they loved it because of the just remarkable variety that existed within it. And I'm honored by that. I don't know. I'll explain why I wouldn't exactly do that again. Okay. But if that's really all that you're wanting is like, no, Brian, I don't care what you call it. We just want our old, our good old fashioned SOVRYN Tech back. You can tell me that. Okay. I've already had a request from just one of my favorite people in the universe. They requested that I do another update episode on, the status of cryptocurrency, and where I see things with that, which I will be doing. But, here's the thing. I don't want to, the way I see it is that, like, I could record every day. Okay. Now there are people, especially on YouTube, who put out episodes like every single day. Some people put out multiple episodes a day. Usually they keep those episodes in like the 15-minute to 25-minute or, half hour range. Reason for that is in 25 minutes, that's like the optimal time to get in like 3 ad slots for YouTube. So that's part of, these are all the unseen motivations, the unseen incentives that people are like, why is there this and that? Why is this long, this and this short and all that? Like, again, these are the things people, like I was just talking about in the last Q&A. These are the things people don't fucking know. I don't blame, and believe me, I don't actually like really blame you for not knowing, but I'm just saying, if you're going to put out an opinion like that and talk about how human life is going to end because of XYZ, please just do more research. Okay? To understand why things operate the way they do right now. Before, you start yelling about, AI slop and whatever else. That's all I'm asking you to do, is to do some research. And believe me, it's not even that hard. None of it is really a secret. You can find out about it. It's all very open stuff. Like I said in the last episode, we live in a much more open and honest world. That doesn't necessarily mean it appears to be better, right? Because again, all that's happened is the curtain's gotten pulled back, but it hasn't changed the way things work at all. Now you just know the reality of it. All right. So, and even then, it's only open and honest at level 3, right? So even that's still bullshit. But of course, that's getting into the whole pyramid of influence that Ellen and I talked about on Sexoterica. Speaking of that, okay, so the question to you is, what kind of show are you really wanting, say, from me? Because what I was getting at is, I don't know that and you can tell me the length of the show that you're thinking about. You want me doing 2 hours plus? You want me doing an hour? Do you like how Sexoterica is around an hour and change? Sometimes a little longer, depending upon what has to get out there, but in general, around an hour and change. Do you like that? Do you want me to do like a 15-minute kind of like daily thing? Is that what intrigues you? I don't know if that's really, here's the problem with that. Doing 15 to 25 minutes, overall, in my opinion, unless I'm doing a fully scripted show, okay, those kind of episodes, those kind of shows only work for people that are talking about the banal, or as I like to say, the banal. That's for dumbasses, schlepping fluff. Okay. So I'm not really, like that. That's not me. Okay. I need to get at the root of what's going on and tell you about the root of what's going on so that we can explore the reality. So I don't think that's necessarily for me, even though I could do full scripted like user podcasts, but obviously I can't release those every day like that. There's so much precision in writing in what I do, that's really key. So, like doing that daily, I would have to, like, literally, I'd have to have somebody like funding me to do that. Okay. It'd have to be old school, just like how it used to be, where scholars and philosophers, rabbis and whatever else, were sponsored, either by their community or by, wealthy merchants or whatever, to engage in this, research and writing and, books and all that stuff. Like, that's what it would need to be for me to do that. I can do it. Oh, fuck, can I do it? I hope I've proven those chops. But really, like, you have to eliminate, the greatest scholars, academics. Are there great academics? All right, we'll go with it. And I'm not claiming to be the greatest by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not even necessarily going to go so far as to call myself a scholar. Okay. I'm just saying that, like, in history, the greatest ones were always ones that did not have to worry about the profit motive. They did not have to worry about the financial incentives. That skews everything. It ruined the profit motive ruins fucking everything. It ruins science across the board. And you can hear from a multitude of, very, very honest and brilliant scientists who will, and researchers who will tell you as much. Like, no, we have to say this. We can't actually put in what perhaps sometimes even the truth, because we need to get a grant. It's reality. So, like, I would need that to do that kind of show, like every day. You can still tell me that that's what you want. That's fine. But there's no way I could promise that right now. Like, I don't, I have to work. I have to, okay. Like, I have to make money. And and at the moment, there have been times where my podcasting career has made me a decent living wage. Okay. That is not the case right now. and I'm not complaining about that. I am just saying that, like, yeah, I can't bring, content like a user podcast, or like a really scripted, even a tight scripted 20-minute episode, because I'm not going to use AI to do all that. Okay. I can't bring that, unless, like I said, unless I didn't have to worry about finances. That's the only way that would really happen. Okay. That's besides the point. And believe me, I want to get into stuff here. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but this is something I really need from you, the listeners. Okay. Like, I want to know what kind of content you're wanting. What kind of show are you really, really interested in? Okay. That would make sense to you. Sexoterica, that show, is going to happen no matter what. This is a show that I am so proud of. I mean, first off, it is the most beautiful privilege to be behind the microphones with my wife. To be behind the mics with the single most remarkable woman I have ever experienced. What a privilege. Nothing will take me away from that. Okay. It's something we've wanted to do for so long. And, we finally feel we're in the position to make it happen. And it is happening. And the response from the listeners, holy shit. I mean, I knew it was going to be great. And not because of me, because of her. Okay. I knew it was going to be great. But I did not expect the level of response that we've gotten for that show. And with only 4 of the episodes we've recorded released so far, I am blown away by the response, and I'm honored and humbled by it. Thank you. Okay. So, and actually some on that. So there is a specific voice that you hear. Now, when I pull clips for Sexoterica or for any show that I do, when I pull clips from audio, I always link to the sources in my show notes. Always. It's very important to me. Okay. That the person who put together stuff that I thought was either so valuable for whatever reason, to include in my show, that they get credit for it. It's a very important thing to do. Just like I generally try to cite who I'm quoting at any given moment, or whose idea, that I encountered that I'm sharing with you. Most podcasters don't really do that. I feel like a lot of them, they just pretend that they're geniuses or something, when really they're just asshats, but whatever. I'm not here to pretend. Okay. I'm about being as fucking real as I can be. I have to be entertaining as well, but I'm as real as I can be. Okay. So there's a specific voice, and if you don't find the link for it, that's because it's something I've written, and I'm using 11 Labs to generate, that voiceover. And I have multiple, okay. For those that are in the Master SOVRYN feed, I'm going to let you in on a little secret with Sexoterica. One is, okay, it is obviously a show about mysticism. Nothing new for my audience. And it's very important for me that the masculine and the feminine both get close to equal representation. And if not equal, then the feminine gets more. Okay. And by reference to that, I'll use the conventional terms of divine masculine, divine feminine, not saying that I am representative of divine anything. Hail Satan. But, okay, that is very important to me. The other thing that's important to me that you might notice in my writing, okay, there are 2 types of language that I think needs to be introduced into English discourse. One is the language of will and power. I don't mean any, and I can't even believe I feel like I need to say this. Okay. But obviously I don't mean like Nazi horseshit. Okay. No crap like that. But the recognition of each individual human being's godhood. Thou art God. So the language of will and of power need to come up front and center. Also, the language of love or lust or sensuality, sex, needs to come to fore. So when you hear those, like the scripts that I write, which I can do, there are a couple minutes worth. Yeah, I can do that and put that stuff together, once a week for an episode of Sexoterica. Okay. Again, folks, we're going to get into other stuff too. I should probably put the shop talk at the end, but trust me, we'll get to some fun conversations here. Okay. But this type of language has been so stripped from modern discourse, and I recognize it. And I think it's something that ultimately holds us back, because most of us, not all, most of us have some kind of like inner dialogue, right? And that inner dialogue is so powerful. You don't even know it. It's a programming language on you. And so it's better in my opinion, it's better for us to even, subconsciously, unconsciously, of course, not hiding anything, I'm telling you right here, to have that type of language become, again, part of our dialogues, outer and inner. Okay? So power, will, lust, love, sex, those things, like when you're talking about like how much you're enjoying life, I always think of actually some rock stars, I'm thinking of one in particular who's so good at talking about everything, even the most mundane things. Man's a poet, and he talks about things, even the most mundane things, he talks about them like he's having sex. It's so beautiful. It's not, I'm sure some people might find it creepy. I do not. I know women who do not think it's so. Okay. That doesn't make it necessarily right, but I think like that it's unfortunate that we live in a society, okay, where yes, like talking about sexuality, all of this stuff, or even hinting at it or using it as allegory, right? Or in poetry, like people feel so unsafe because of so many predators out there, all that. I totally get that. I really do. But folks, we've got to change the discourse. The language has to change or nothing changes. Okay. So when when you have, when I have that voice, I think on 11 Labs, her name's Sophie. Anyway, when you have that voice come in, that language, I am so particular in what kind of language I use within that. That takes a lot of work to put all that together. Okay. But I think that's really key. Okay. And you'll know, now that you're going to notice it going forward, because I plan on using, this tool quite a bit. Okay. But I am so proud, again, of Sexoterica. Like, yes, so much of my energy will go into the creation of that show. I know how important that show is right now. Yep, 4 episodes deep. No, I know. And early reactions I've gotten prove the point. Okay, so that's happening. Like, that's not going anywhere. Okay, but beyond that, here's the thing. I don't want a million episodes dropping for you every week that are like 2 hours a pop. And hey, I can do that. I can get behind the mic. Fuck, I could talk 6 hours. Like I could just keep going right now. And amazingly, a lot of people find it interesting. Blows my mind. But hey, okay, I could do that. But that's not what I want to do. Okay, I think, the landscape now, there was a time where me coming out with daily content made sense. All right, but that time was what, 2015, 24, like around that time. There were a lot of podcasts, yes, but there weren't podcasts, say, that brought it at my level back then, as to where now there's so many. And I'm not even complaining. I'm just saying there are so many. Okay. And like, I know how many podcasts I want to listen to every week, and I can't listen to them all. Like it would be all that I do, and I feel terrible about that I have to be so selective with them. I mean, yes, there are podcasts where I listen to every single fucking episode, and sometimes the minute that they fucking come out. Obviously, Security Now is at the top of that list. Okay. But there are others underneath that hell yeah. I mean, when that episode comes out, I am chomping at the bit to listen to it. But even those people, like seriously, even if Steve Gibson came out with a 2-hour episode every single day, I couldn't do it. I just could not do it. I couldn't take that much in. Okay. Even if you did an hour a day, I couldn't do it. So that's the thing, is that I want to be respectful of my audience's time, both the present audience and the future audience. Okay. And I don't want to just inundate you with a bunch of, I would like to think that there'd be a good, enough quality. It wouldn't just be quantity, but I want to concentrate even harder, just like I do with Sexoterica, on quality, over the quantity. Okay. That doesn't mean that like the weekly Q&A is going anywhere. Of course, that's going to stay. I usually try to keep this shorter, but that doesn't always happen. Okay. But this is my question to you. You tell me, what kind of show are you wanting from me? If you're a longtime listener, you know the amount of things that I can talk about. Okay. And I'm giving you the opportunity here, to really be, I've always felt listeners are like executive producers, and like, here's your shot. Okay. Let me know. I'll talk about it. I'll be very open about it on what people say and think, and I will go over it. And if it's something that I think can work, it's something I'll discuss with, with some others, and, but ultimately it'll be my decision, and like, and we'll go forward. I want to provide that kind of thing for you because I love doing this. I love podcasting. And I think in the last Q&A, I know from some who've responded, the importance of podcasts. And so I want to make sure that's there. Okay. So that's it. Let's get into some questions, shall we? Like I said, okay. So I had quite a few people asking me, like it just became such a part of conversation yesterday, oh man, like, what are your favorite Ozzy songs? All this, like, could you do like an album breakdown like you did with Kiss? Which, wow, that was a long time ago. I don't think anything's changed other than there's, I might, kind of re-rank. Like Asylum was my top album. Crazy Nights in recent years may have actually overtaken that. Obviously Revenge, is right up there as well. But man, I've really come to love that album, Crazy Nights, so much more. Anyway, so, with everybody asking about Ozzy, my favorite Ozzy, material, I figured the simplest thing I can do is I'm just going to do a top 5. I'm not going to do a complete album ranking. And maybe I'll save Black Sabbath for another Q&A, just as something fun to talk about. I also had people asking me, like, did I have any great Ozzy memories? Like I said in the episode, some of these people messaged me before the episode was set. Some people had asked me, like, did I have any Ozzy memories? What was it like in concert, things like this. Like I said, I actually never saw Ozzy in concert live. Obviously, I watched DVDs. In fact, another person asked me, what was the DVD, the No More Tears DVD? It was called Don't Blame Me. It's so good. It's still so good. I cannot recommend that enough. I still have a copy of it. Just lots of fun. Ozzy, in many ways, very much in his prime, even though some people would say he was in his prime in the 80s or the 70s, even with Black Sabbath. What is one's prime? How much cocaine makes you in your prime? I don't know. And I say that with respect to Ozzy. The stories you hear about him, yeah, everybody kind of knows about, like, biting the bad head off and those sorts of things. Or like I talked about, the court case around Suicide Solution. But like the things like the stories Motley Crue would tell about him, where he's like hanging around the pool and just like snorting ants and shit, which I think ended up in actually Motley Crue's movie in The Dirt. Like stuff like that is so wild. But very few people talk about just how much of a genius he was. And I think you get some of that actually in the Don't Blame Me DVD. I got to tell you, I hated the show The Osbournes. I know a lot of people really, really loved it. That show was white hot back in the day. White fucking hot. And it even had a point where it caused like, where, at the time I was very much into wrestling. And like, Ozzy and Sharon would show up on Raw or SmackDown or whatever. Which, is cool. Like, I'm not necessarily complaining about that, but like, it wasn't about the metal. It was more about the Osbournes. And I never liked that show, really. I remember watching an episode though, that I thought, and I've quoted this before on Sovereign Tech. I loved it when Ozzy's daughter was saying, like, she wants to express her individuality. She wants to get a tattoo. And this is going to be like her first tattoo. And Ozzy's like, well, if you want to be an individual, you know, everybody has a tattoo. Don't get one if you want to be an individual. And I just always thought that was so damn funny. I don't have anything against people with tattoos. I'm not saying anything of the sort. I just thought that was so hilarious. You know, and a small taste perhaps of some of the wisdom of Ozzy. I mean, when you've lived a life like that guy did, I mean, you can't help but you can't help but have, you know, the wisdom of experience, right? It's so powerful. Like as far as my own, I mean, that was some of my memories. But like maybe the best memory I have of Ozzy, and I think this might be a story I've told before in the past as well, is when my mother was getting married to one of her husbands. They had me, you know, I'm the tech guy, right? Even way back then. And they had me handling the sound system in the church. You know, I had to play the music and, you know, put in the CD. This is when CDs were a thing. And I had to, you know, like test the sound system in this, I think it was a Methodist church. And, you know, the CD that I mentioned in the previous episode, The Ozman Cometh, you know, just one of the best compilations ever made. I brought that in, and for my sound test, I played Mr. Crowley, right? Because it starts off with the whole organ music, you know, very church-like, you know, bow, 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 you know, all that. And my uncle, who's a huge metalhead, my uncle laughed his ass off so hard. Here we are in the middle of church, and I'm playing Mr. Crowley by Ozzy Osbourne. So fucking loud. Like, it's like, all right, well, we got to see, you know, like what's the right levels, you know, to play, to you know, to have the volume set at, all this stuff. Oh, it was so great. It's so great. Just a small, one of those fun things you can do when you're a little bit younger, you know. Anyway, I don't necessarily have, you know, more Ozzy memories beyond that. Zakk Wylde, I have more memories, and some that are pretty funny, but those are stories for another time. I might have even shared them at some point, but we're not here to talk about Zakk. You know, we're Father Zakk, right? we're here to talk about Ozzy. So I figured the simplest, quickest thing to do, you know, just to kind of put all of this together, okay, would just be to do like a top 5 of Ozzy's albums. Okay. Not covering them all. And like I said, in some ways, his last 2 albums, I mean, they're good, but they're just not that, like, they're not special, you know? So there's albums that I wouldn't even really want to rank. And I hate saying that. Okay. But you know, it's fine. Even if he was just doing it for a cash in, whatever, like, can you blame him? Well, like the DVD says, don't blame me. But anyway, here we go. Lightning round, top 5 Ozzy albums. Okay. I'll go from, you know, 5, I'll go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Number 1 being the best. And I know I'm going to get shit for this, but leave the comments. YouTube, Spotify, email, wherever, however, leave the comments, and I'll get to them in the next episode when I do the, maybe the Black Sabbath top 5. Okay. So for me, at number 5 is totally Jakey Lee's. It's just, in my opinion, it's an unsung hero in Ozzy's lineup. You know, Ozzy's worked with some of the greatest musicians in history. And Jakey Lee is just one of those guitarists that is just so fucking hard, man. I mean, like, just so solid. You know, and I'm so glad in later years, you know, he would get to do Red Dragon Cartel, which that music is amazing. But anyway, The Ultimate Sin. And I mean, there's so much controversy, dare I say even conspiracy, around this album. You know, because basically it sounds like Jakey, they wanted to, you know, screw over Jakey Lee. I'm not saying Ozzy did, but maybe people around him. We'll just leave it at that. But The Ultimate Sin is it's so underrated in his catalog. But I mean, Shot in the Dark, which is the primary song that people know from this album from '86, really like carried him in I would dare say in a very dark time. And he even admits to this. They're like, what was it? Like, you look at the music video for Shot in the Dark, and Ozzy's like, what the fuck am I wearing? Like, what am I doing in this video? And he'll even say, like, he doesn't even really remember much of anything from that time. I mean, that was a song that really like kept him on the charts and carried him for a good long while. But really, the whole album did. And I mean, I think it's an incredibly strong album. The title track, Ultimate Sin, Thank God for the Bomb, Killer Giants, Fool Like You. Fool Like You is an amazing Ozzy track. Never gets played, but it's so cool. And of course, Shot in the Dark. I mean, this is a truly great album. I mean, I can tell you right now, I'll give this hint. Bark at the Moon is not on here. Now, that's a fine album. Okay. But ultimately, in some ways, it's kind of a one-track album, right? like it's Bark at the Moon. Now, hey, you can argue with me. Okay. That's part of the fun of being a metalhead, is we get to have like these fun arguments about what's best, what's not. I love that shit. Right. That's why we watched that metal show for over a decade. I know you're with me on that. So anyway, but Ultimate Sin, I mean, I love Jakey Lee. But overall it's such a strong album. It really is. That just doesn't get enough play and enough attention. And to some degree, that's because like part of Ozzy Incorporated, like wanted to bury it. It feels like. There's much better versions of the album actually that you can get online that have been like fan remastered or something like that are just stunning. Anyway, at number four, got to go with Scream. Like I said, having Gus G. I mean, if you lose, not that he lost him, but if you don't have Zakk Wylde, one of the greatest guitarists of all time, man of tremendous talent, and and of tremendous loins. Okay. He'd know what I mean. If you don't have Zakk Wylde, who do you get to even try and fill those shoes? I mean, and that's to say nothing of Randy Rhoads, right? Gus G is another one of these guys, like Jakey Lee, were like very much an unsung hero, like just such a solid guitarist. I mean, he's so fucking great in solo work, any band that he's playing with, whatever. I've had the pleasure of seeing Gus G play live. Fucking intense. I mean, the guy's just a beast. Amazing. And the opening track on Scream is so good. I mean, like, that's so intense. The previous album to it, Black Rain, was, my understanding at the time, was supposed to be Ozzy's last album. I mean, again, I'll say this quickly, like, Ozzy dying hit, okay, hit me hard. It hit a lot of people hard, but I don't think it's necessarily the same, perhaps, and this is no disrespect to anybody, okay? I don't think it's the same as some others, partly because so many of us, especially big fans of Ozzy, we know he hasn't been in good health for a really long time. Like, there have been so many close calls over the past 20 years where it's like, is he going to make it? And I say that with please, with such tenderness. But I think that's part of it, is that for a lot of us, like, it had already, I hate to say it. I think a lot of fans were just kind of like, yeah, it's going to happen soon. It sucks. It's horrible, but it didn't come as a surprise. It's not like with Lemmy, where it's like when Lemmy Kilmister died, it's like, wait, what do you mean there's not going to be any more Motorhead? Like Motorhead is still coming out like an album a year. They're still kicking so much ass. What the fuck? How do you let God die? Lemmy Kilmister, that being. Yeah, that was different, as to where this one, still sad. But I mean, also, like I said, the most beautiful thing is that Ozzy got to go out on those terms, of doing one of the biggest metal shows in fucking history. That's so great. Not everybody gets to call their shot like that when it's their time to go. So, So very, very different thing. Anyway, so we've known for a long time, or, we had known for a long time. And like Scream, that album coming out in 2010 was a surprise because I thought Black Rain was the end, and I would have been fine with that because Black Rain is such an incredible album. Okay. In fact, go right to it. Okay. Again, I really wanted this to be more of a lightning round, going right to it. And number 3, so number 4 is Scream. Again, very good album. Zombie Stomp. No, that one didn't have Zombie Stomp. Anyway, almost track for track on that one. And again, really like came out of nowhere. So yeah, I mean, Soul Sucker, Digging Me Down, Crucify, just all great songs. Okay. So anyway, Black Rain, 2007's Black Rain. Holy shit. How do you come out with an album like this going into almost 40 years in your career? How do you do that? I mean, this album is so insane. And like the first 3 tracks, like it's just nonstop action, right? Not going away. I Don't Want to Stop. Black Rain. I mean, it just keeps going. And I mean, everything about it's perfect. Lyrics, everybody's feeling very much top of their game. Just dynamite album. I mean, there's a point where I would have actually said to you that Black Rain would have been at number 1. Like, it's that good of an album. The production's that sleek. Everything about it's just right. But it sits at number 3. Number 2 is Zakk Wylde's first foray with Ozzy, and that being No Rest for the Wicked from 1988. Another somewhat underrated album, even though a ton of hits come from this album. And I think people forget that. But I mean, like Miracle Man, Crazy Babies. I mean, of course, Breaking All the Rules. Maybe not my favorite Ozzy song, but dang near. And even songs that would later become bigger deals, like Fire in the Sky, is such a dark, like just epic song, that's on there. Demon Alcohol, even that's a fun one. He'll get you. So just really, really cool album. No Rest for the Wicked sits at number 2 on the list. And then number 1, I know everybody's already flipping out. Wait a minute. It's got to be either Diary of a Madman or Blizzard of Oz, because you already said it wasn't Bark at the Moon. Nope. Obviously, you know what it is. It's No More Tears. This is the ultimate, not the ultimate sin, but this is the ultimate Ozzy album. I mean, just in every way, everything about it. Track for fucking track. This is the album that Zombie Stomp is off of. But I mean, opens right up with Mr. Tinker Train, another song that doesn't get enough play, but is so hot. I mean, it's so hot. Like the man, you can't run, you can't hide, you can't tell me what I'm feeling inside, baby. It's good shit. And then goes into I Don't Want to Change the World, huge hit. Mama, I'm Coming Home, arguably Ozzy's biggest hit. Desire, incredible song, very intense, very inspirational. Same old desire, crazy train, right? Then of course the title track, No More Tears. I mean, like, look, folks, we're just going down the list of what's in the fucking album. I mean, I know it by heart, but like, all of these songs are amazing. Sin, Hellraiser, of course, one of my favorite Ozzy songs of all time. And then that's followed up by Time After Time, line after line, right? I mean, amazing. Then you get Zombie Stomp, AVH, Road to Nowhere. I mean, some of that is more like instrumental stuff. Road to Nowhere is great. Then of course, Don't Blame Me, which is where the DVD got the name from. I mean, there's Party with the Animals. There's so many. Oh, every fucking song is dynamite. That album is absolutely timeless. It sounds like it came from the future, but then it also sounds like it fits exactly in the time frame within which it came out, which was 1991. Unreal, that album. Fucking unreal. And this is what creates the Ozzy that everybody like imagines as Ozzy, right? With like the 60s circular glasses and all that stuff. This all comes out of No More Tears. Whatever magic happened to make this thing happen, holy shit. I mean, this easily belongs, I'll say, in the top 25 albums of all time, because there's not a bad, I'm not saying there's not a bad song. There's not a bad note on the fucking album. Incredible. I know. Believe me. Okay. I am what do they call it? A zennial, right? Where I'm like in this weird midway point between a millennial and a Gen Xer. Okay. So I know how, because I had siblings, I know how, everybody feels about Blizzard of Oz, Diary of a Madman and all. And look, they're great albums. Okay. I'm just giving you a top 5. Those would certainly be at like 6 and 7. Okay. But man, No More Tears was fucking everything. And that, again, that album is still so incredible to this day. And I think will always sound fresh. So there's my top 5. I'll break it down again really quick. Number 5, The Ultimate Sin. Number 2, Scream. Number 3, Black Rain. Number 2, No Rest for the Wicked. And then number 1, No More Tears. Did I say Scream was number 2? I meant number 4. Anyway, doesn't matter. So you give me your list. Okay, you hit those YouTube comments, you hit those Spotify comments, you hit me up however you hit me up. You give me your list. All right? And if you want to give me some reasoning behind it, I'll read it on the next Q&A. Okay? This is again, losing Ozzy, this is just one of the, like I was saying in the last episode, or in the last Q&A, like it's such a seminal thing. Like, yes, you could talk about this for a long time because there's a lot to talk about, because this phrase gets overused, but it's absolutely true in this instance. It is an end of an era. And I don't just mean a Black Sabbath or Ozzy Osbourne's career. It is an end of an era. So it's something worth talking about, quite a bit, and for a while, maybe forever. Okay. But we do have other things to talk about here, and I want to try and keep this down to an hour. So I might tighten some of this up. And if I have to, I'll cut out the review of Jurassic World Rebirth, which actually Ellen and I wanted to do. So funny thing. So Ellen and I, there are so many, one of our great joys that we do is we watch movies together. Okay. It's one of the ways that we kind of like decompress after the work week to get into the weekend. Friday night is movie night. Okay. Pull out the vegan pizza, whatever, all this stuff, or vegetarian and like rock and roll. Okay. And watch, some classic, sometimes something new. Okay. And, we go to theaters sometimes too, when the stars align for such a thing. It's not that often. But anyway, we did end up seeing Jurassic World Rebirth together. We wanted to, and we want to, like, when there's time in Sexoterica, our plan was always that like the last 10, 15 minutes would be like a movie review of some kind. But, the subjects that we've been bringing up and just kind of getting started, we've never had the time to do that, unfortunately. So some of these movie reviews, I'll probably just, tack on to Q&As or in other shows. And Ellen's already told me, like, look, if you want to do a review of Jurassic World Rebirth, like, go for it. And, maybe I'd even make that one a separate episode because I think it's worth talking about at that level. There's so much to break down within that. So I might actually skip that for now. So let me get to, instead of going into the mysticism, because I can be pretty quick on this, I also had quite a few people message me, ironically, and you'll understand the irony, about Jack Dorsey's new app, that being BitChat. Now, the big deal about BitChat, what this is, is it is a messaging app, akin to Signal, WhatsApp, whatever, that allows you to message people without an internet connection. Okay? For Sovereign Tech listeners, man, this is old hat. Because everybody's talking about this thing, and I got it, and I didn't hear about it until people emailed me about it. But then I look and I'm like, oh, wow, a lot of people are talking about this, but everybody's talking about it. But I'm like, why? This shit has existed for a long time. I don't understand what the big deal is about this, other than it's like Jack Dorsey shit. And, he's probably paying for press around it, which is how most press happens these days. And I can say that as being in the industry. It's pay to play. Okay. Yeah, I don't get it. And to make matters worse, Like this is so confusing to me. Okay. So first thought is like, really, why aren't you, Jack Dorsey, why aren't you supporting the Briar app? The Briar app, which is Android only, though it's also available in alpha on, Linux, Windows, and Mac OS, but it's not on iOS. The Briar app already does everything and more than what BitChat does. And it's been around for like a decade now. I mean, I've been reporting on the Briar app almost as long as I've been doing podcasts. I am baffled. Like, why are you doing this? The technology, the app already fucking exists. Aha. But what was the platform that I left out? iOS. Yeah, so the weird thing about this is that BitChat right now is only available through Apple's App Store test flight program, which is, where you test out apps. It's a developer thing. But it's only on iOS. Now, to me, okay, this is where it gets a little bit confusing. So on one hand, you have Jack Dorsey endorsing, no pun, endorsing Graphene OS. I don't know if he still does that, but a couple of years ago, at least, he was. You have to have an Android phone. You have to have a Pixel phone, in fact, to run Graphene OS. So on one hand, you have him endorsing that. On the other hand, he famously, and I've talked about this, and I'm not even negative about it, he has famously said years ago, I mean, this is like maybe 2018 or so, that he doesn't even like have a laptop. His only computer is his iPhone. And there is a logic behind that, like his choice of just having that one device. That way he doesn't have to worry about a bunch of different devices. He keeps one updated. He knows where all his data is, blah, 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 like all this. And it's all great. Like I'm not saying that with derision. I've talked about this. I was doing a cybersecurity series towards the end of 2024 where I talked about this, about the one device, having that one device. And that was partly, and I say partly inspired by Jack Dorsey's logic in what he was doing. So we know he uses an iPhone. Okay. But everything that he claims to be espousing is like so anti-iOS, like blockchain, metaverse, whatever. I know that Apple has come to terms with blockchain technology, more or less. Like I got that. Okay. But because it wasn't that way, right? 10 years ago, it was a completely different story. You had to have an Android phone back then if you wanted to work in Bitcoin, unless, there were certain wallets that slipped through with like an enterprise license that changes things a bit in the App Store, but whatever, we don't have to go back down that history. Okay. So, this is just very strange. Like you're creating this supposedly censorship resistant so hard to the point that you don't even need to pay the telcos for an internet connection to be able to use this. It just uses, Wi-Fi Direct, I think. Whatever, again, the Briar app for Android, uses Wi-Fi Direct. It uses Tor. It uses, Bluetooth. It can use many protocols. It's so far superior to what Dorsey's putting out there, as far as I can tell. I've not been able to test the app, so I can't say everything for certain. But people ask me about it, and so I'm giving you my opinion. Look, I think it's a fine thing. I just think I think it's fucking weird that he's only making it for iOS, because his, shall we say, his digital body language has, seems to suggest a more open path to things. I understand why people concentrate on iOS, especially if you have a way of monetizing the app you have, because just by the numbers, people spend more money on services and apps and all that have an iPhone than those that do not. It's just the numbers. I'm not saying I like it. I'm just saying it's the reality. Okay. I use an iPhone, as my daily driver. So obviously I don't have a problem with that. Okay. I'm just saying it's weird for him to be arguing about being like censorship resistant and all this other stuff. And he's not releasing this on F-Droid, first and foremost, right? It's strange. So I don't get it. This kind of thing, yeah, I want it to exist. I love it. I've been supportive of it because they already exist and they've existed for a long fucking time, particularly the Briar app. I fucking hate the news industry because they treat this like this is the goddamn second coming when this is old news. This kind of capability is so fucking old hat. Stop it. Anyway, this is why the world needs podcasts, where you can get some kind of a sense of history and dose of reality. So that's my thoughts. Like, again, in the abstract, I don't have a single problem with it. It's the narrative around it that I'm just like baffled by, that doesn't make sense. But sure, great, use it. Like, and if it can solve the issue that Briar had, where having Briar open, drain the battery of whatever device you're using, like there's no fucking tomorrow. If it solves that problem, dynamite, amazing, good for you. Okay, reason to exist. Okay, but again, like it's not like this is anything necessarily new. Okay, this is very old hat, especially in the Android space. But again, look, no shit. I use an iPhone all the time. Okay. Well, I think, are we finally like kind of past that? Or have we gotten past that? Like, no, my OS is better. Like, really? I don't think we have gotten past that, because I've even heard people like Leo Laporte saying like, well, I don't think we should subject anybody to Windows. And it's like, come on, man. People use computers for different reasons. If somebody's a gamer, why would you make fun of Windows? Seriously. Like, if somebody's a gamer, they have basically every right to make fun of macOS. Really. Okay? I mean, there's great Linux options now, thankfully, for gaming, and I'm so supportive of that. And that's, always the direction I want to look at. But I'm just saying, like, it's good. I mean, you can have fun between each other, and maybe that's how Leo was treating it, whatever, I don't know. But I would just kind of think and I know I was in that whole game when we thought that our voices and that our dollar mattered in the tech space that so many of us, cared about. Okay. I hope we've just learned our lesson that no, it doesn't matter. Apple's going to do whatever the fuck they want to do. Google's going to do whatever the fuck they want to do. Okay. Microsoft absolutely is going to do whatever the fuck they want to do. It doesn't matter how many people they have to lay off, how many thousands, tens of thousands of people they need to lay off. They're going to do whatever the fuck they want. They don't care. So there's no reason to be fucking standing for them in any way. Okay. Okay. Use what works for you, folks. All right. So, let's see. What else did I have here to talk? Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. I'll try and be kind of brief on this one because it's something I've already covered, but I know I'm getting a lot of new listeners. I was tempted to save this for the next Sexoterica, but I'm going to get it in here just to be sure. Because I don't want somebody like to kind of wait on this. I mean, in so many ways, there's so many resources to reach out to on the interwebs. It's amazing that anyone like has an audience that you can do a Q&A with. And I'm so honored by that. So thank you. But I also want to be like respectful of, the immediacy perhaps of some people's questions. And so, I'll put some over others here and there. And even though this is one I've covered before, it's probably been 2-3 years. So, and it might've even been behind a paywall at the time. So I just want to cover it here, and I promise I will be, as brief as I can be. So here we go. Let me skip ahead. Didn't even know you could attach, crystal life, you put that in quotes, to Kabbalah. Do you really, and I'm guessing, all right, real quick, I'm guessing that's referencing, yes, like in some of the material that I wrote up for the most recent Sexoterica, I did attribute certain crystals to powers attributed to different Sephiroth within the Tree of Life on Kabbalah. Okay. So I'm guessing that's what you mean by that. Anyway, do you really need to learn Hebrew and know Kabbalah to dive deep into mysticism? I'm intrigued and I need to, this is someone, I know who you are. This is someone who picked up absolutely on what I was doing and saying and writing a lot of that. I need to know if that's the only gate to true power. Nice. or if there are more direct paths that don't require becoming a scholar before I can become a sorcerer. Very nice. Very nice. Okay. So short version. No, you do not have to learn Hebrew. You do not have to study Kabbalah to get involved in mysticism or to, shall we say, reap the benefits of embracing and internalizing the, shall we say, the spiritual realm or the mystical realm. You absolutely, like, Kabbalah is a lens. It may be a very good one, a very old one, but it's just a lens. Okay. So no, that's not necessary. I think, let me see how I can break this down. So, okay, here's a really important concept. The universe responds, and that's capital U universe. The universe responds to will, not to grammar. Does that make sense? Like I think I had said in the most recent Sexoterica, the tone is the code. Okay. The universe responds to will. To will, you could put, if you're not comfortable with the word will, a little too Nietzschean for you, even though that shouldn't be an issue, or maybe it's a little too Sterner for you, in which case, fuck you. No, I'm kidding. Maybe. But you could put in desire. Okay. Like replace desire, and will and desire are in many ways are the same thing. Not exactly, but in many ways they are. Okay. So the universe responds to desire, not to grammar. Universe responds to will, not to grammar. Okay. So you don't need to know Hebrew. You don't need to know all the angelic names and, call upon them during some kind of ritual or something like that. Be super clear on that. Okay. Now in Kabbalah, there is a concept that language, and in this case, the Hebrew language, actually existed before the universe did. And that the universe came out of the Hebrew language. Now, you have a lot of people who honestly have just spent way too much time, and I mean this, have spent way too much time in front of a computer, who think that somehow Kabbalah is saying, see, the universe is a simulation. The Hebrew language is just the code. No, stop. Nope. Okay. The idea, what that is pointing at is that these symbols that make up the Hebrew alphabet are not just letters. They're not just language. That's really what that is saying. There's so much to unpack within that. Okay. And I know somebody's going to email me or message me and say, well, wait a minute, like, didn't you say that actually Torah was originally Greek? Weren't you, quoting D.C. Amon Hillman about that? And so how does Hebrew like actually matter? How could Hebrew be primordial if you're saying this? Okay. You're construing multiple things that, yes, I have said, but I made it very clear that even if, say the Septuagint, right, the Greek version of the Hebrew Bible, even if the Septuagint is actually the original and the Hebrew is a translation, most people think it's the other way around, right? That doesn't mean that the Hebrew language itself doesn't have some kind of power to it. Okay. This is really, really key. So yes, the Hebrew language can still be, and if we want to use computer terms, we could say that it's part of the code of the universe. Okay. But they are like any symbol, which language ultimately comes down to symbolism. Okay. They are abstractions. They're abstract concepts that may have their own power. And it doesn't take anything, the idea that maybe the Greek was the original, the Septuagint is the original, doesn't take anything away from that, because the Hebrew alphabet could still be something pre-existent, even though part of the problem with that is we can see kind of the evolution to some degree of like the Hebrew language. And it seems to have a starting point and an evolution, out of Mesopotamia and all this. So, yeah, that runs into some issues. Okay. And that's a very complex subject to get into. If you want to ask me about that, I'll get into that. I'm totally fine with talking about what all that means. Okay. but we won't cover that here. Okay. So you don't have to know Hebrew, right? Let me make that clear. In fact, most texts, Kabbalistic texts, aren't even in Hebrew. Okay. A lot of them are in Aramaic, or, they're in other languages, right? Because Jews, when Kabbalah was at its height, a lot of them were in Spain. So what do you think they were writing this stuff in? Or in Arabic countries, whatever. Like, they would write these texts wherever, they, in the language, lingua franca of wherever they happen to be. Okay. So, knowing Hebrew, not essential whatsoever. Okay. Understanding Kabbalah. I like to think of Kabbalah as more the anatomy, and the physiology of the cosmos, right? Like, the classic general semantics concept of the map is not the territory. Okay. Kabbalah is the map. It's not the territory. The territory is, just the raw primal power that's in your own hands. Okay. Like that. So again, no, you don't need to know Kabbalah. Like, you can feel the territory on your own. No need for any text whatsoever. You just have to open yourself up to it. But if you want to understand the territory a little bit better, maybe having a map is helpful. And in that case, Kabbalah is just such a map. All right. It is a lens, like I say, a way of seeing. And I mean, it's again, it's a very good one because it gives a name to just about everything. Like it's kind of impressive in how it does that. Okay. But I am not saying that, that it's the apex. I'm not saying anything of the sort. You choose your lens. One mountain, many paths, folks. Okay. All right. If you did want, okay. And so when I've been asked this before, I've always brought this up. If you actually wanted to get just know how to maybe feel the territory, shall we say, more, okay? That is mysticism. Charles Haanel's The Master Key System is the apex, like that I've experienced. Maybe other people have written better books. Maybe there are better books in other languages, and I don't know. Okay. But the Master Key System is so beautifully brief. The information is so dense and condensed. It's very much the perfect book for understanding this is how the universe works. Now, it doesn't name everything. It keeps a lot of things in abstractions. But I mean, if that's all you had, you're going to do very well for yourself, in my opinion, if you apply yourself and apply it to your practice, to your life. Okay. So the Master Key System all the way. That's all you really need. You don't have to have a gigantic library like John Dee, or, other Jewish masters or whatever. Like you don't. Okay. I just want to be so fucking clear on that. And I'm not telling you have to read Kabbalah. I'm never telling people they have to read Kabbalah. Like, just not. Okay. You go through it through your path. Like I've said before, and that other people have said it better than me, write your own gospel, live your own myth. Okay. No need to be a scholar in this stuff. I will say the more you learn, the more you know, and there is a power in naming things. There is a mystical power, a magical power in naming things. Okay. That will allow you to interact with, shall we say, spiritual forces, without fear, and most efficaciously, with beneficence to yourself. Okay. That with the more, the better you can handle these, insane things that may occur to you, and the better that your mind can wrap around that. So while all you need, while I would say, no, look, all you need is the Master Key System. At the same time, yeah, you start, diving deep into the mystical realm, and like, you might want a lot more context. Okay. You might want a map. That's all I'm saying. Okay. But you take it, you go forward in your path how you want to. Maybe you want to go, I mean, even me, I'm not just a Kabbalist. In fact, like I accept that term, but like that's my practice of Kabbalah, shall I say my mystical practice, encompasses so much more than Kabbalah. Okay. Now I could say that, yeah, I can find these other practices within Kabbalah. Sure. And look, one of the biggest things that I think people don't realize, because they're always like, oh, there's all these claims of this and this and in this mystical tradition and this mystery school and this, but where's the text? Where is it written down? Where's the evidence? Where did it happen? Folks, there are thousands of years of history written in other languages, thousands of texts, tens of thousands, maybe even more, that have been written by cultures, civilizations long past, that have never been translated to English, may have never been translated into any modern language. Thousands of texts that are basically ignored because for, whatever the reasons are within, archaeology and in academia. Okay. There are so many that have never been translated. It's amazing that we can use AI to actually help us try and translate this stuff. Okay. Even in a mediocre way is helpful. All right. But I mean, people just, they don't understand, that like this information is out there and it's not even hidden. It's just not translated. I think there's so many people, even just in the English speaking world, who think they have access to the entire corpus of Christianity, or they have access to the entire corpus of Judaism, and you don't have shit. Hell, especially with Christianity, there might be more fucking translated, into Spanish or French than there is in English. Judaism, whole other fucking deal. Never been translated. Greek, even, never been translated. Never touched. There's so much information out there right under your nose. Powerful information. But because, I don't know, it's not on Amazon, you're just like, oh, that doesn't exist. Very short-sighted. Very short-sighted. So, and also, like I was saying, I mean, I'm not short-sighted enough to just stick to one lens. Okay. I bring in elements of Sufism. I bring in elements of Jainism. I know people think Jainism was like a joke years ago for me. No, ahimsa is a very serious thing for me. Okay. I bring in all other kinds of mystery schools. Okay. I am to use a term, I'm as a syncretist as much as many. Okay. I'm by no means saying, again, that Kabbalah is the truth. It is a truth. It is a lens. That's it. I hope I've made that clear enough. Okay. And I've already gone over an hour. So I want to wrap this up, but I think I gave you homework if you want to go and read that and get started on your journey. Okay. But yeah, no need you do not need to learn Hebrew. It doesn't hurt, but you don't need it. Okay. In fact, if you're looking to get into Kabbalah, you're better off, learning Aramaic than you are learning Hebrew. So keep that in mind. Anyway, okay, I'm going to wrap this up with that. Got in a little bit of everything for this episode. And just a reminder, please, if you would get your comments to me, however you choose to, about like what kind of show are you looking for? Because I'm doing a lot of different stuff right now, but I think we need to pare it down to where, we're not doing 5, 6, 7 releases a week or something like that, where it's not going to get built up to that, where we can keep things tighter. And, you have time for other shows that absolutely deserve your time, or you have time for me. Like, I'm not going to claim that I'm like the centrality of anybody's existence. I'm not. Okay. Nor should I be. But I just want to make sure there's room for everyone, and that people are getting, what helps them out. And again, I can't say this enough. I am so fucking honored by the response to Sexoterica. Like I said, I knew it was going to be hot. I knew it was going to be great, but thank you to everybody who's really enjoying that so far. And we're just getting started. We're just warming up. It's only going to get bigger. And so with that, I will see all of you on the other side.